Daiho Kim stood at the observation window of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the alien warships position themselves around Mars. The red planet looked peaceful from this distance, but Daiho knew that 340,000 human colonists were down there, going about their daily lives. They had no idea what was coming. "Commander, the Council fleet is charging weapons," reported Lieutenant Yuna from her station. Her voice was steady, but Daiho could hear the fear underneath. Daiho pressed his hand against the cold glass. "Can we do anything?" "No, sir. Our weapons can't reach that far, and even if they could, we're outnumbered 50 to 1. The Council ships opened fire. Brilliant lances of energy stabbed down through Mars' thin atmosphere. The colony domes shattered like soap bubbles. Mountains of red dust erupted into the sky. In less than 3 minutes, the entire human presence on Mars was erased. 340,000 people. Gone. Daiho closed his eyes. He had friends down there, colleagues, people he had trained with at the academy. Now they were just atoms scattered across Martian soil. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Council flagship," Yuna said quietly. "Put it through." A hologram materialized in the center of the command deck. The alien was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil and water. Its voice came through the translator as smooth and cold. "Humanity has been judged by the Galactic Council. Your species demonstrates excessive aggression and unpredictable behavior. You are hereby forbidden from expanding beyond your home system. This quarantine will remain in effect for 1,000 of your years. Any attempt to breach it will result in the complete sterilization of your planet. Comply, and you may continue to exist. Resist, and you will share the fate of your Mars colony." The transmission ended. Through the window, Daiho watched the Council fleet turn away from Mars and begin moving toward Earth. Down on Earth's surface, Ambassador Minji Park stood in the Council's temporary embassy, surrounded by alien delegates from 40 different species. She had been summoning to this meeting minutes after the Mars attack. The room was designed to accommodate various alien body types, so the ceiling was 30 meters high, and the air smelled of chemicals that made Minji's eyes water. "You murdered our people," Minji said, keeping her voice level. "We had a colony treaty. Mars was within our recognized territory." The lead council delegate, a creature called Velenuth, made a gesture that the translator interpreted as dismissive amusement. "Your territory exists only because we permit it. The Council has observed your species for 5 decades. You wage constant wars among yourselves. You've created weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You torture and experiment on your own kind. Such a species cannot be trusted with access to the greater galaxy. Every species has a bloody history," Minji argued. "We're learning. We're growing. You can't judge us based on our past. We judge you based on your present," another delegate said. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal. "Even now, your nations point nuclear weapons at each other. Even now, you commit atrocities in the name of politics and religion. The Council's decision is final. Humanity will be quarantined. And if we refuse?" Velenuth's skin shifted to a dark red color. "Then we will do to Earth what we did to Mars. The Council protects the galaxy from dangerous species. You should be grateful. We're offering you the chance to exist at all. Many species in your position receive no such mercy." Minji felt her stomach twist. "You've done this before. 147 times. Some species learned to control their violent nature. Others did not. Those others are no longer a concern." The meeting ended 30 minutes later. Minji was given a formal document outlining the terms of Earth's quarantine. As she walked back to her transport, flanked by human security guards, she activated her encrypted communicator. "Minji to command. Message is simple. Begin Operation Typhoon. The reply came immediately. Understood, Ambassador. We've been waiting. 3 days later, the Council's barrier field activated around Earth's solar system. It was an invisible wall of exotic energy that would prevent any ship from entering or leaving. The technology was beyond anything humans had achieved. It would take centuries for Earth scientists to develop something similar. Or so the Council believed. Dr. Hyun-Woo Lee stood in his laboratory beneath the mountains of Korea. Staring at fragments of Council technology the human spies had stolen over the past 30 years. The pieces were scattered across analysis tables, each one glowing softly under examination lights. We knew this day would come, Hyun-Woo said to his research team. The Council has been testing us, pushing us, waiting for an excuse to contain us. They fear what we might become. Can we break through the barrier? Asked Dr. Sumi, his lead engineer. Eventually, yes. But that's not the point. Hyun-Woo picked up a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. This is a power regulation node from one of their scout ships. The Council's technology is advanced, but it's old. They haven't innovated in thousands of years because they haven't needed to. They've had no competition, no threats, no reason to improve. And we have? We have every reason. We've spent our entire history competing against each other, pushing technology forward through necessity and war. The Council thinks they're containing us, but they're actually giving us exactly what we need: time and motivation. Hyun-Woo placed the crystal back on the table and looked at his team. 20 of Earth's brightest minds, all recruited for this single purpose. We're going to reverse engineer every piece of Council technology we have. We're going to understand how it works, and then we're going to make it better. When we come out from behind this barrier, we won't be the primitive species the Council expects. We'll be something they never imagined. Above the planet, the barrier field hummed with power. To the Council, it was a prison. To humanity, it was a shield behind which they could work unseen. Admiral Ji-Won Choi stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul, looking at holographic displays showing Earth's military production capacity. Shipyards were being built in hidden locations across the solar system. Weapons research was accelerating. Every nation on Earth had united under a single goal: survival and eventual freedom. How long do we have? Asked General Taijin, commander of Earth's ground forces. As long as we need, Ji-Won replied. The Council has forgotten about us. In their minds, we're already defeated. They'll check on us in a few decades, maybe a century. By then, we'll be ready. Ready for what? Revenge? Ji-Won shook her head. Revenge is just anger. What we're planning is justice. The Council has destroyed 147 civilizations. They've enslaved countless others. Someone needs to stop them. And that someone is us? Who else? We're the only ones they've underestimated enough to give a chance. Ji-Won touched a control, and the hologram shifted to show the Council's known territory. Thousands of star systems, billions of beings, all under the control of species that considered themselves superior to everyone else. We're going to free them all, Ji-Won said quietly. Every slave, every subjugated species, every civilization living in fear of the Council. We're going to tear down their empire and build something better in its place. That's a war that could last generations. Then we'd better get started. Across Earth, the message spread through encrypted channels. Operation Typhoon was active. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, seen their colonies destroyed, and been judged unworthy by beings who claimed superiority. The Council had made a calculation that humans would accept their fate, adapt to their cage, and eventually fade into irrelevance. They were wrong. Humanity doesn't fade. Humanity fights. And behind the barrier that was meant to contain them, Earth was preparing for a war the galaxy had never seen. 15 years had passed since. The barrier went up around Earth's solar system. On the Council's homeworld of Thalasra Prime, Security Director Velaneth reviewed his quarterly reports with barely contained boredom. The document about the human quarantine was 3 pages long, and every page said the same thing: no activity detected. The barrier remains stable, Velaneth told the Council Assembly. Sensor readings show minimal energy signatures from the Sol system. The humans appear to have accepted their situation. Some radio transmissions suggest they've focused on improving their own planet rather than attempting space travel. Standard pattern for quarantined species. The Council members made various gestures of approval. One of them, a floating crystal being named Torval, pulsed with a questioning light. Should we not check on them directly? Send a probe through the barrier? Unnecessary, Velaneth replied. The barrier technology provides complete telemetry. If the humans were building anything significant, we would detect the energy signatures. They're contained and harmless. The Council moved on to other matters. Humanity was forgotten, just another entry in a very long list of species that had been judged and found wanting behind the barrier. The truth was very different. Admiral Jiwan Choi floated in 0 gravity inside the construction bay of Asteroid Base 17, one of 40 hidden shipyards scattered throughout the solar system. Around her, the skeleton of a warship took shape as constructed. Admiral Jiwan Choi floated in 0 gravity inside the construction bay of Asteroid Base 17, one of 40 hidden shipyards scattered throughout the solar system. Around her, the skeleton of a warship took shape as constructed less than 10 meters. The Council won't see us coming until we're already there. Jiwan smiled. 15 years ago, human ships could barely reach Mars. Now they had technology that could make vessels invisible to almost any detection method. The Council's mistake had been assuming humans would study the barrier trying to break through it. Instead, Hyunwoo Lee's team had learned how it worked and adapted the principles to create something entirely new. How many ships are operational? Jiwan asked. 347 stealth frigates, 89 heavy cruisers, and 12 carrier vessels. Another 200 ships in various stages of construction. And the crews? Trained and ready. We've been running simulations for 10 years now. Every pilot knows their role. Jiwan pulled herself through the construction bay toward the command center. Through the transparent walls, she could see other asteroids in the distance, each one hollowed out and converted into a hidden base. Humanity had turned its own prison into the foundation of the largest military buildup in its history. But the really clever part was how they'd hidden it from the Council's sensors. Every base was deep inside an asteroid, shielded by kilometers of rock. All energy signatures were channeled through quantum dampeners that made them appear as natural radiation. To any external observer, the Sol system looked quiet and peaceful. In reality, it was an armed camp preparing for war. Captain Soman Yoon sat in the pilot seat of the stealth ship Ghost, watching her instruments as the vessel approached the barrier from the inside. This was her 47th reconnaissance mission beyond the quarantine zone, and she still felt her heart race every time. Initiating micro-breach in 3, 2, 1, said her co-pilot, Lieutenant Mino. The ship's quantum drive activated. For exactly 2.3 seconds, a tiny hole opened in the barrier, just large enough for the Ghost to slip through. Then it closed behind them, leaving no trace. They were outside, free, sensors clear, Mino reported. No Council ships in range. We're invisible. Somin allowed herself a small smile. The Council had spent 10,000 years believing their technology was superior to everyone else's. They'd never imagined a quarantine species could sneak past their barriers like this. Set. Course for the Kepler system, Somin ordered. Let's see what our friends have been up to. The Ghost accelerated, its quantum drive bending space around it in ways that made conventional detection impossible. They crossed 30 light-years in 4 hours, arriving at a council border station that monitored the approaches to their inner territories, recording everything. Minho said, fingers dancing across his console. Ship types, weapons configurations, patrol patterns, communication frequencies. This data will be invaluable. Soman watched the council station through her view screen. It was enormous, easily 10 kilometers across, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. A fleet of patrol ships circled it in precise formations. The council's military hadn't changed their tactics in centuries. Why would they? No one had challenged them in living memory. "I'm picking up something else," Minho said, his voice suddenly tense. Encrypted transmission from the station. Breaking it open now. He worked in silence for a moment, then his face went pale. "Somin, you need to see this." The data appeared on her screen. It was a report about a species called the Velinari, who lived on a planet 20 light-years from the Council's core worlds. The Velinari had developed nuclear technology and were beginning to explore their own solar system. According to the report, the Council had decided they posed a potential threat. The recommended solution: complete sterilization of the Velinari homeworld within the next 6 months. "They're going to do it again," Soman whispered. "Just like Mars. Just like the other 147 species Villeneuve mentioned. Should we warn them?" "We can't. Not yet. If we break radio silence, the Council will know someone's out here." Soman felt anger burning in her chest. "But we can mark their world on our maps. When we come back, we'll make sure the Velinari are one of the first species we liberate." They spent another 6 hours gathering intelligence before slipping back through the barrier. When they arrived at Asteroid Base 3, Soman immediately reported to Admiral Jiwan. "It's worse than we thought," Soman said, transferring her data to the command center's main display. "The Council isn't just suppressing advanced species. They're actively hunting down any civilization that shows signs of development. They view technological progress as a threat to their dominance." Jiwan studied the data in silence. Behind her, other officers were gathering, reading the reports, seeing the truth of what humanity faced. "How many species are on their list?" someone asked. "Current targets?" 23. "Historical eliminations?" "We found records of 312 civilizations completely destroyed. The 147 number Villeneuve gave us was only the ones they officially acknowledged." The room fell silent. 312 species, each one full of unique beings with their own cultures, dreams, and potential. All erased because they threatened the Council's power. "Then we have our answer," Jiwan said quietly. "Some of us wondered if the Council deserved a chance to change, to negotiate. But you can't negotiate with beings who see genocide as standard policy. We're not just fighting for Earth's freedom anymore. We're fighting for every species that can't fight for themselves." She turned to face her officers. "Double our production schedule. I want every ship we can build, every weapon we can make. Soman, I'm authorizing 20 more reconnaissance missions. Map every Council military installation within 50 light-years. Find their supply lines, their patrol routes, their weak points." "Yes, Admiral." "And send a message to Dr. Hyun-woo. Tell him we need weapons that can break through Council shields. We're not sneaking around forever. Eventually, we're going to hit them, and when we do, I want it to hurt." On Earth's surface, President Ji-hoon Nam stood before a secret session of the United Earth Government. Representatives from every nation watched as he presented the intelligence Soman had gathered. "The Council has given us a gift," Ji-hoon said. "They think we're trapped and helpless. In reality, they've given us 15 years of uninterrupted preparation time. Our ships are better than theirs. Our tactics are more flexible. Our people are motivated by something the Council has forgotten: the desire to be free. When do we strike? Asked the European representative. Soon. Dr. Hyung-woo says the barrier technology is fully understood. We can drop it whenever we choose. But first, we need to be ready for what comes after. The Council has 47 member species and controls thousands of worlds. We're one planet with 500 ships. We need to be smart about this. Smart how? Ji-hoon smiled. We hit them where it hurts most, their arrogance. They've spent 10,000 years believing they're invincible. We're going to show them they're not. When we come out from behind this barrier, we're not asking for permission to exist. We're declaring war on everything the Council represents. The vote was unanimous. Operation Typhoon moved to its final phase. Deep in his laboratory, Dr. Hyung-woo Lee made the last adjustments to the barrier controls. With a simple command, he could deactivate the field that had imprisoned humanity for 15 years. But he waited, letting the anticipation build. His assistant, Dr. Sumi, stood beside him. Are we ready for this? Really ready? Ready as we'll ever be, Hyun-woo replied. The Council thinks they know us. They've studied our history, our wars, our violence. They think they understand human nature. But they've never seen what we're capable of when we fight for something bigger than ourselves. He touched the control panel. Send the signal. Tell Admiral Ji-won she can drop the barrier whenever she wants. Earth is going to war. The Council border station at Kepler 442 had stood watch over the outer territories for 800 years. Its crew of 2,000 beings from a dozen different species performed their duties with the casual efficiency of people who never expected anything interesting to happen. Monitoring empty space was boring work, but someone had to do it. Station Commander Fellmouth was reviewing supply requisitions when the sensors began showing strange readings. Not alarms, exactly. Just odd fluctuations in local space that didn't match any known phenomenon. Probably just a glitch, said the sensor operator, a floating creature named Pillion. The equipment's been acting up lately. Maintenance keeps saying they'll fix it. Fellmouth was about to agree when the fluctuations intensified. For just a moment, his screens showed 12 distinct objects materializing around the station. Then the readings vanished. Did you see that? He asked. See what? Before Pillion could check the logs, the station's shields failed. Then the power grid went dead. Then, in the darkness and confusion that followed, the entire station began breaking apart from internal explosions. Captain, So Min-yoon's task force had been inside the station for 47 seconds. Her ships had phased through the shields using quantum tunneling technology, appeared in critical locations throughout the structure, deployed antimatter charges, and phased back out into normal space. All targets destroyed, reported Lieutenant Minho from the weapons station. No survivors. No distress signals transmitted. Somin watched the station debris scatter into space. She felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. Marked the location and moved to the next target. We have 16 more stations to hit before the Council realizes something's wrong. Her fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving nothing behind but wreckage and questions that would never be answered. Over the next 6 weeks. 17 Council military installations simply ceased to exist. Border stations, supply depots, patrol bases, all erased with surgical precision. The Council's military command received automated reports of equipment failures and unexplained malfunctions, but nothing that suggested enemy action. Fleet Commander Zorpath, a massive creature covered in armored plates, reviewed the incident reports with growing irritation. 17 facilities in 6 weeks? That's statistically impossible. Equipment doesn't just fail simultaneously across multiple systems. His aide, a slim being named Corral, made a gesture of uncertainty. The investigation teams found no evidence of attack. The wreckage shows signs of internal explosions, possibly reactor malfunctions or sabotage by maintenance crews. Several stations had filed complaints about inadequate funding and aging equipment. So, we're supposed to believe our own. People are destroying military bases because they're unhappy about their budgets? It does seem unlikely, Corral admitted. But what's the alternative? We have no enemies. No species in the galaxy would dare attack the Council. Zorpath wanted to argue, but he couldn't. The Council had controlled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Every potential threat had been eliminated or quarantined long ago. Who could possibly be responsible for these attacks? Double patrols in the affected sectors, he ordered, and run diagnostics on all military installations. If this is equipment failure, we need to fix it before more stations are lost. He never considered that the attacks might be coming from inside a quarantine zone. Why would he? Breaking through a Council barrier field was considered theoretically impossible. Admiral Ji-Wan Choi stood in the war room aboard the Earth Defense Force flagship Typhoon, studying the holographic map of Council territory. Red dots marked the installations Summons Task Force had destroyed. Green dots showed upcoming targets. There were still hundreds of them. The Council still doesn't understand what's happening, reported Intelligence Officer Daeho. There, Military Command thinks it's equipment failures or internal sabotage. They're investigating their own people instead of looking for external threats. Good, Ji-Wan said. That gives us time to prepare for the real operation. How's the fleet looking? 500 ships ready for combat. Another 300 in final construction stages. All crews trained and eager to fight. Ji-Wan nodded. The small raids had been about testing human technology and gathering intelligence. Now it was time to show the Council what Earth was truly capable of. Target selection? She asked. We've identified the optimal strike point, Proxima Tethys. It's the Council's primary military academy and their strategic command center for the outer territories. Taking it out would cripple their coordination in half the galaxy. Defenses? Extensive. Shield arrays that could withstand a sustained bombardment from 100 capital ships. Fighter wings, missile platforms, and a garrison of 50,000 troops. It's one of the most fortified locations in Council space. Perfect, Ji-Wan said with a cold smile. If we're going to announce our presence, let's make sure they can't ignore it. Prepare the fleet for assault. We move in 72 hours. The message went out through encrypted quantum channels. Across the solar system, human warships began gathering at the designated rally point. Pilots checked their weapons. Engineers ran final diagnostics. Marines practiced boarding actions in simulation pods. Everyone knew this would be different from the raids. This was a real battle, and people were going to die. Captain Suman stood on the bridge of her ship, now designated Ghost Leader of the Stealth Squadron. She'd been chosen to lead the opening attack because of her experience with the reconnaissance missions. Around her, 11 other stealth ships waited in formation. Remember, she told her squadron commanders through the tactical channel. Speed and precision. We phase in, eliminate the shield generators, and phase out. The main fleet will handle everything else. Questions? There were none. They'd practiced this operation 100 times in simulation. Then let's show the Council what humanity learned during our 15 years in quarantine. All ships, prepare for quantum jump. Proxima Tethys hung in space like a metal moon, covered in weapons platforms and docking bays. Inside, 10,000 cadets were attending classes while military commanders planned strategies for controlling the outer sectors. No one suspected that their fortress was about to become a graveyard. The attack began at 600 station time. Summon's stealth squadron materialized inside the shield perimeter, so close to the generator stations that the defenders had no time to react. Antimatter warheads detonated in perfect synchronization. The shields died. 30 seconds later, Admiral Jiwan's main fleet arrived. Council fighters launched in desperate confusion, trying to form defensive screens. But human tactics didn't match anything in their playbooks. Earth's ships moved in three-dimensional patterns that seemed random until you realized each movement was coordinated with dozens of others. They created overlapping fields of fire that caught Council vessels in crossfires from multiple angles. Captain Minho Beak led a bomber wing straight toward the station's main hangar. Council defense systems tried to track them, but the bombers kept phasing in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing faster than targeting computers could follow. When they reached the hangar, they didn't stop. They phased through the closed bay doors and materialized inside the structure itself. "Deploy payload," Minho ordered. Antimatter charges scattered across the hangar interior. The bombers phased back out. 3 seconds later, the entire hangar section of Proxima Tethys exploded from within. Lieutenant Yuna Shin coordinated her fighter squadron with inhuman precision. Each pilot was connected through quantum-entangled neural links, allowing them to react as a single organism. They moved like a school of fish, turning and attacking in perfect unison. Council pilots, trained to fight as individuals, didn't stand a chance. Aboard the Typhoon, Admiral Jiwan watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. "Status on the command center?" "Still operational," reported her tactical officer. "Heavy armor protecting the core structure. Then we do this the old-fashioned way. Prepare boarding teams." Marines in powered armor launched from assault pods, crossing the space between ships under covering fire from the fleet. They crashed through weakened hull sections and fought their way into Proxima Tethys corridor by corridor. The Council troops defending the station were brave and well-trained, but they'd never faced an enemy this determined. Colonel Taijing Han led the assault on the command center personally. His team moved through the station with brutal efficiency, using shaped charges to breach sealed doors and plasma rifles to clear rooms. Council defenders fired back, but human armor absorbed damage that would have killed an unprotected being. "Command center ahead," Taishin reported. "Heavy resistance. Requesting fire support." "Denied," Jiwan's voice came back through his communicator. "Too close to sensitive equipment. You'll have to take it the hard way." Taijin smiled inside his helmet. The hard way was fine with him. "Marines, prepare for breach. Flashbangs on my mark." The battle for the command center lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, Taijin stood among the bodies of council officers who had fought to the last. He felt no pride in the killing, only weary acceptance that this was necessary. "Command center secured, Admiral." "What are your orders?" "Download everything. Military codes, strategic plans, personnel files, technology databases. Take it all." While Marines secured the data, the battle outside was ending. Council forces at Proxima Tethys had been completely routed. Half their ships were destroyed, the other half fleeing in disorder. The station itself was a floating wreck. Venting atmosphere and bodies into space. Dr. Hinwoo Lee worked frantically aboard the Typhoon, cracking the encryption on the Council database. What he found made his blood run cold. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, transferring files to her command display. Jiwan read in silence, her expression growing darker with each page. Records of Council operations going back 5,000 years. 147 acknowledged species eliminations. Another 165 unofficial extinctions. 89 civilizations currently enslaved, their people working in mines and factories throughout Council territory. "They're worse than we thought," Jiwan said quietly. "This isn't just arrogance. It's systematic genocide on a scale I didn't think possible." "There's more," Hyunwoo said. We found something in their old archives. Ancient human radio transmissions from the 20th century that the Council intercepted and studied. They were terrified of a concept they found in our military history. What concept? Total war. The idea of mobilizing an entire civilization's resources toward achieving complete victory. The Council has never faced anything like that. They fight limited wars with limited objectives. But humans? When we're pushed far enough, we don't stop until the enemy is completely defeated. Jiwan looked at the tactical display, showing the wreckage of Proxima Tethys and the debris of destroyed Council ships. Then they should have left us alone, because that's exactly what we're about to give them. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest gathering in 3 centuries. Representatives from all 47 member species filled the massive chamber on the Lasra Prime, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and anger that even the translation systems struggled to process. Security Director Velineth stood at the center of the chaos, trying to restore order. Silence. We must approach this rationally. Rationally? Roared Council Member Dorshak, his massive form trembling with rage. An unknown enemy has destroyed 19 installations and obliterated Proxima Tethys. 15,000 of our best warriors are dead. How do we approach that rationally? By investigating before we panic, Velineth insisted. We've analyzed the attack patterns and recovered fragments of the attacking vessels. The technology is sophisticated but recognizable. Someone has stolen Council designs and adapted them. Who? Which species would dare? Velineth hesitated. He had suspicions, but they seemed impossible. The ship fragments contain materials and manufacturing techniques similar to those used by species in the Orion sector, specifically from the region where we established the Sol System quarantine. The chamber fell silent. Then Turval, the crystal being, pulsed with disbelief. You think this is the humans? The species we locked behind a barrier 15 years ago? I think we need to investigate that possibility. It's impossible, Dorshak declared. Our barrier technology is unbreakable. And even if they somehow escaped, they're primitives. They barely had space travel when we quarantined them. How could they develop weapons capable of challenging the Council in just 15 years? I don't know, Velineth admitted. But we need to check. Send a probe through the Sol barrier and verify the humans are still contained. The probe was dispatched immediately. It would take 3 days to reach Earth's solar system. The Council waited, expecting confirmation that humanity remained trapped and helpless. Instead, the probe found the barrier field deactivated and the solar system bristling with military infrastructure. Before it could transmit more than a basic report, human ships destroyed it. They're out, Velineth said, reading the probe's final data burst. And they've been preparing for this. The Sol system has been converted into a massive military base. Dorshak's rage boiled over. Then we will crush them. Assemble the Grand Armada. Every warship from every member species. We'll show these primitives what happens when you challenge the Council. Is that wise? Velineth asked. We don't know the full extent of their capabilities. They destroyed one fortress, and you want us to be afraid? We have 12,000 warships representing 47 civilizations. They have, what, a few hundred ships built in secret? This isn't a war. It's an extermination. The vote was nearly unanimous. Only Velineth abstained, and his concerns were dismissed as cowardice. Within days, the Grand Armada began gathering, the largest military force assembled in Council history. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, each one confident in the righteousness of their cause and the inevitability of their victory. Commander Zorpath was given overall command. He studied reports about human tactics at Proxima Tethys and wasn't impressed. They used surprise and technology they stole from us. Against a prepared defense, They'll break like waves against stone. Set course for the Barnard star system. Intelligence suggests the humans have established a forward base there. We'll destroy it and then proceed to Earth itself. The Armada jumped to hyperspace, 12,000 ships moving as one. It was a sight that would have terrified any species in the galaxy. The Council expected humanity to surrender the moment they saw it. Colonel Taijin Han watched the Council Armada arrive in the Barnard system and allowed himself a tight smile. The trap was set perfectly. All defensive platforms online, he reported from his command post on the moon of Barnard's largest planet. Minefields active. Hunter-killer drones deployed and waiting. Around the system, humanity's defensive network came to life. Automated weapons platforms that had been drifting like space debris suddenly activated their stealth systems and disappeared from sensors. Mines that folded space into lethal traps moved into position along the Armada's projected route. Thousands of small drones, each one controlled by quantum AI that could think faster than organic brains, spread out into attack formations. "They're so confident," said Major Yuna, Taijin's second in command. "Look at that formation. They're not even trying to be careful. Why would they? They've never lost a battle." Taijin watched the Armada advance deeper into the system. "Let them get close. I want them committed before we spring the trap." The Council fleet reached the inner system and began scanning for the human base. They found it easily enough, a cluster of structures on Barnard's fourth moon. Exactly where intelligence had predicted. "Prepare orbital bombardment," Zorpath ordered. "Destroy the base and anything else in this system. Let's send Earth a message about the price of resistance." The Armada began positioning itself for the attack. That's when Taijin activated the defense network. Space mines detonated in carefully calculated patterns, not trying to destroy ships, but to herd them into specific areas. The Council fleet scattered in confusion, right into the killing zones where weapons platforms waited. Automated railguns opened fire, each platform targeting multiple ships with inhuman accuracy. "Hunter-killers, engage," Taijin ordered calmly. Thousands of drones swarmed the Council ships. They were small and individually weak, but they moved with coordinated precision that made them impossible to fight effectively. One drone would disable a ship's shield generator, while 10 others hit the exposed hull with plasma warheads. Council point defense systems tried to track them, but the drones shared targeting data and adapted their tactics in real time. "We're taking casualties," one of Zorpath's captains reported. "These automated systems are more effective than we anticipated. Push through." Zorpath roared. "There's no way they have enough of these things to threaten the entire Armada." He was right. After 2 hours of fighting, the defensive network had destroyed or disabled 3,000 Council ships, but that left 9,000 still operational. The remaining forces pushed through the minefields and weapons platforms, accepting losses to close with the human base. "Target the moon," Zorpath ordered. "Obliterate it completely." That's when the human fleet arrived. Captain Minho Beek led the first strike group out of quantum space, peering behind the Council formation. His bombers phased through shields and hull armor, depositing antimatter charges inside Council carriers. The massive ships exploded from within, each one taking dozens of smaller vessels with it. Lieutenant Yunishin's fighter squadrons hit the Armada's flanks. Their quantum-linked coordination, allowing them to fight as a single organism. They wove through Council formations, always staying in blind spots where the larger ships couldn't bring weapons to bear. Admiral Jiwan Choi brought the main battle fleet in from 3 different angles, surrounding the Council Armada and subjecting it to crossfire from multiple directions. Human capital ships used quantum tunneling to appear and disappear unpredictably, making it impossible for Council forces to maintain effective formations. "What kind of warfare is this?" Zorpath demanded as his command ship shuddered under impact after impact. They're everywhere and nowhere. Our tactical computers can't track them. They're using guerrilla tactics on a fleet scale, his tactical officer reported. They hit hard, fade away, hit again from a different angle. We can't pin them down low enough to bring our superior numbers to bear. Then we adapt. All ships break formation. Pursue individual targets. Sir, that's exactly what they want. If we break formation, we lose our defensive coordination. But Zorpath was desperate and angry. His perfect armada was being torn apart by a force that should have been no match for the Council's might. He gave the order to break formation. It was a massacre. Human ships isolated Council vessels and destroyed them one by one. Bombers phased inside carriers and detonated antimatter charges. Fighters stripped away point defense systems so that capital ships could finish the job. Marines boarded damaged Council vessels and captured crew members for intelligence. The Battle of Barnard Star lasted 14 hours. When it was over, the Grand Armada had lost 63% of its strength. 7,600 ships destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled in disorder, abandoning damaged vessels and wounded comrades in their panic to escape. Pursue? Captain Soman asked from her stealth ship. Negative, Jiwan replied. Let them run. Let them tell the Council what happened here. Sometimes fear is more valuable than bodies. While the military battle raged, Ambassador Minji Park was fighting a different kind of war. She stood in a secure broadcasting facility on Earth, preparing to transmit a message to every enslaved species in Council territory. Are we ready? She asked the technician. The hack is complete. We've penetrated Council communication networks across 300 star systems. When you speak, millions of beings will hear you. Minji took a deep breath and faced the camera. My name is Minji Park, and I speak for humanity. 15 years ago, the Galactic Council judged our species unworthy of freedom. They destroyed our Mars colony, killed 340,000 of our people, and imprisoned us behind a barrier field. They said we were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed among the civilized species of the galaxy. She paused, letting her words sink in. They were right to fear us. Not because we're violent, but because we refuse to accept tyranny. We've studied the Council's history. We know about the 312 species they've eliminated. We know about the 89 civilizations they've enslaved. We know that the Council doesn't protect the galaxy. It controls it through fear and genocide. Images appeared behind her, showing the evidence humanity had recovered from Proxima Tethys. Records of Council atrocities spanning 5,000 years. To every enslaved species watching this, you are not alone. Humanity is coming, and we're bringing freedom. To every civilization living in fear of Council judgment, stand with us. Together, we can tear down this empire of oppression and build something better. And to the Council itself, you made a mistake when you gave us 15 years to prepare. You should have destroyed us when you had the chance. Because now we're coming for you, and we won't stop until every slave is free and every being in this galaxy has the right to determine their own destiny. The broadcast ended. Within hours, 17 subjugated civilizations declared independence from the Council. Slave revolts erupted on mining worlds and factory planets. Council authority began crumbling as species that had been oppressed for centuries saw hope for the first time. On Velasru Prime, Valinith watched the galaxy fall apart and knew the Council's 10,000-year reign was ending. The humans hadn't just started a war. They'd started a revolution, and there was no way to stop it. 6 months after the Battle of Barnard Star, the war had transformed the galaxy beyond recognition. Council authority existed now only in name, held together by increasingly desperate threats and dwindling military power. 17 species that had declared independence were now fighting alongside humanity. Former slaves had taken up weapons and were hunting their former masters across dozens of star systems. Admiral Jiwon Choi stood on the bridge of the Typhoon, watching a fleet unlike any in galactic history prepare for the final offensive. Human warships flew alongside vessels from the Velinari, whose planet Earth had saved from Council extermination. There were ships from the Sen, a species that had been enslaved for 8 centuries, and now fought with the fury of the liberated. 24 different species, all united by a common enemy in a shared dream of freedom. "The Liberation Fleet is ready," reported Captain Soman from her position, coordinating the stealth squadrons. 8,000 ships, give or take a few dozen. Not bad for 6 months of work. Not bad at all, Jiwon agreed, especially considering most of these species were prisoners or slaves until recently. What's our target status? Thalasra Prime remains heavily defended. The Council pulled back every available ship to protect their homeworld. We're looking at approximately 4,000 warships and orbital defense platforms that could level a continent. Then it's a good thing we don't fight fair? Transmit the battle plan to all fleet commanders. We jump in 30 minutes. Throughout the fleet, beings from 24 species made final preparations. Human pilots checked their quantum drives. Velinary gunners loaded antimatter warheads. Crothan Marines sharpened their combat claws and recited prayers to gods the Council had tried to make them forget. Everyone knew this would be the decisive battle. If they won, the galaxy would be free. If they lost, the Council would spend the next 1,000 years ensuring no one ever challenged them again. On Thalasra Prime, Security Director Velinith stood in the Council chambers and made one final plea for reason. We must negotiate. The humans have proven they cannot be defeated militarily. Our armada is broken, our territory in revolt, our authority collapsing. If we continue this war, we will lose everything. Council Magistrate Dorshak, his massive body coiled in the center of the chamber, refused to listen. We negotiate nothing with inferiors. The Council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not surrender to primitives and their slave armies. They're not slaves anymore, Velinith said quietly. That's the point. Every species we oppressed is now free, and they want revenge. Then we will give them death instead. I've authorized activation of the Omega Protocol. Velinith felt his 3 hearts stop. The Doomsday Weapon? That would sterilize 12 star systems, including some with Council populations. Better that than allowing these rebels to claim victory. If the Council must fall, we'll take half the galaxy with us. Let that be our final legacy. Velinith looked at the other Council members, hoping someone would object. But he saw only fear and desperate pride in their alien faces. They would rather destroy everything than admit they were wrong. I won't be part of this, Velinith said. He activated his communicator and spoke a single command. Security forces, stand down. Do not resist the incoming fleet. The Council no longer speaks for me. Dorshak roared in fury. Traitor! Guards, arrest him! But the guards didn't move. Many of them came from species that had seen friends and family enslaved or killed by Council policies. They'd followed orders out of duty, but duty had limits. You can't stop this alone, Dorshak snarled at Velinith. The Omega weapon is already being prepared. In 1 hour, I'll activate it personally. Then I guess we'd better stop you, said a human voice from the chamber entrance. Captain Soman Yoon stood in the doorway, her stealth team materializing around her. They'd phased through the planetary, shields and security systems, infiltrating the Council's most secure location without triggering a single alarm. How? Dorshak demanded. This chamber is protected by technology beyond anything in the galaxy. You keep saying that, Soman replied, raising her weapon. But you've been wrong about us from the beginning. Now step away from the controls. Dorshak moved with surprising speed for his bulk, lunging for the Omega weapon activation panel. Soman fired once. The plasma round took Dorshak in the center mass, and the Council's last magistrate collapsed without another word. Omega weapon location? Soman asked her team. Lower levels, Chamber 17. Already transmitted coordinates to the Admiral. Above the planet, the battle for Thalastra Prime had begun. But it wasn't the desperate struggle the Council expected. Many of their defensive forces simply stopped, fighting when they learned Velenith had ordered a stand-down. Others fought with noticeably less enthusiasm once word spread about the Doomsday weapon. No one wanted to die protecting leaders who were willing to destroy their own people. Lieutenant Yuna Shin led her fighter squadron through the orbital defenses with almost contemptuous ease. The Council pilots were good, but they were following doctrine that was centuries old. Human pilots improvised, adapted, and coordinated through their quantum links with an efficiency that made them effectively unbeatable. Path cleared to the surface, Yuna reported. Marine transports can land whenever they're ready. Colonel Taijun Han's assault force hit the planet's surface in 20 locations simultaneously. His personal unit targeted the Omega weapon facility, a fortress built beneath 3 kilometers of solid rock. It should have been impregnable. Shaped charges on the entrance, Taijin ordered. We're going in hot. The Marines blasted their way inside and fought through automated defense systems, and the few Council guards who still resisted. They reached Chamber 17 with 10 minutes to spare before the weapons countdown would have become irreversible. Dr. Hyun-Woo Lee, who joined the assault team specifically for this moment, approached the Doomsday weapon with scientific curiosity mixed with horror. It's beautiful and terrible. One activation would create a cascading quantum collapse across 12 star systems. Trillions dead in seconds. Can you shut it down? Taijin asked. Already working on it. Hyun-Woo's fingers flew across the alien interface, applying everything he'd learned from 15 years of studying Council technology. There, countdown stopped. The weapon is inert. Then let's destroy it. Nothing this terrible should exist. Agreed. They set demolition charges and evacuated the facility. The explosion that followed reduced the Omega weapon to its component atoms. One less horror in the galaxy. In the Council chambers, Ambassador Minji Park stood before the surviving Council members. Most of Dorshak's supporters had fled or surrendered. Only a dozen delegates remained, looking lost and confused as their ancient empire crumbled around them. It's over, Minji said, not unkindly. The Council as you knew, it is finished. What happens next depends on how you respond. You're going to execute us, one of them said bitterly. Just like we would have done to you. No, we're going to put you on trial. Every species you destroyed, every civilization you enslaved, every atrocity you committed will be documented and presented to a galactic tribunal. You'll face justice, not revenge. What's the difference? Justice serves truth. Revenge only serves anger. Minji gestured to the human Marines standing guard. You'll be treated humanely during your imprisonment, given proper legal representation, and allowed to present your defense. Some of you might even be acquitted if you can prove you opposed the Council's worst actions. Velenith stepped forward. I helped you. I ordered the stand-down that saved countless lives. Does that earn me any consideration? It earns you a chance to prove you've changed. Whether that's enough will be up to the tribunal. Minji looked at all of them. The old order is dead. We're building something new, something better. A federation of equals where no species dominates another. You can be part of that, or you can cling to your pride. Choose. 3 months later, President Ji-Hoon Nam stood before a gathering of representatives from 67 species. Some were council members who'd rejected Dorshak's final madness. Others were newly freed civilizations still learning what independence meant. All of them had come to Earth to discuss the future. "We didn't fight this war for conquest," Ji-hoon said. "Earth doesn't want an empire. We want partnership. The new Galactic Federation will be built on principles the Council abandoned: self-determination, mutual respect, and collective defense against anyone who threatens peace." "How can we trust you?" asked a Krathan delegate. "You've proven you're the most powerful military force in the galaxy. What's to stop you from becoming the next council?" "Two things," Ji-hoon replied. "First, we'll write it into the Federation Charter that no species can hold more than 15% of leadership positions. Humanity will have a voice, but never a controlling one. Second, we're going to share our technology with everyone. The quantum drives, the stealth systems, the weapons that won this war. We're making them available to all Federation members." "That's insane," someone objected. "You're giving away the only advantage you have." "Because we don't want advantages. We want allies. Real ones who choose to work with us because they believe in what we're building, not because they fear what we might do if they refuse." The vote to establish the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds passed with 84% approval. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a start. Captain So-min-yoon returned to Earth 6 months after the war ended, her stealth ship finally decommissioned after years of dangerous service. She stood in the memorial garden built outside Seoul, reading names carved into black stone. Every human who died in the war was listed here, along with names from the Mars colony and every civilian killed in Council attacks. 367,000 names, said a voice behind her dot, so Min turned to find Admiral Ji-won standing there, also reading the memorial. "Too many," So-min said. "Far too many. But without their sacrifice, the number would have been much higher. The Council would have eventually decided Earth was too much trouble and exterminated us like they did to 300 other species. Do you think it was worth it?" Ji-won considered the question. "Ask the Velinari, whose planet we saved. Ask the Kren, who were slaves for 8 centuries and are now free. Ask the 23 species that would have been eliminated if the Council had remained in power. Then tell me if it was worth it." So-min touched one of the names on the wall, a pilot from her squadron who died at Barnard Star. She was 19 years old. Joined up because she believed humanity could make a difference. And she was right. We did. Across the galaxy, the work of rebuilding continued. Enslaved populations returned to their homeworlds. Species that had been isolated for millennia met each other for the first time as equals. Council technology was reverse engineered and improved, and shared freely. Medical advances that the Council had kept secret to maintain control were distributed to worlds where they saved billions of lives. It wasn't perfect. There were disputes, misunderstandings, and occasional violence between species that had centuries of grievances. But for the first time in galactic history, those conflicts were resolved through negotiation and law. Rather than conquest and genocide, Dr. Hyun-woo Lee stood in his laboratory, which now trained scientists from a dozen different species. A young Velinari researcher was asking him about quantum tunneling theory. "The equations seem impossible," the student said. "How did you solve them?" "By refusing to accept that they were impossible. The Council had centuries to develop this technology, but they stopped innovating because they didn't need to improve. We had 15 years and motivation. Sometimes pressure creates breakthroughs that comfort never could. Do you think we'll keep innovating now that the war is over?" Hyun-woo smiled. "I hope so, because the galaxy is full of mysteries we haven't solved yet. Now we have thousands of species working together instead of fighting each other. Imagine what we can accomplish." Ambassador Minji Park, now Earth's permanent representative to the Galactic Federation, stood in the new council chambers built on a neutral world called Haven. Unlike the old council chambers designed to intimidate, this space was open and welcoming. Representatives sat in a circle rather than a hierarchy. Today we vote on admission of 3 new member species, Minji announced. All have met the Federation requirements: stable government, respect for sapient rights, and commitment to peaceful cooperation. The vote was unanimous. 3 more species joined the growing Federation. After the session, Valeneth approached Minji. The former council security director had been acquitted by the tribunal after testifying against Dorshek's regime. Now he served as an advisor to the Federation, helping them avoid the mistakes the council had made. "I never thanked you properly," Valeneth said, "for giving us the chance to change. Many species in your position would have simply exterminated everyone associated with the council." "We're not like the council," Minji replied. "That's the whole point." "I know. That's why I believe this Federation might actually work. You won your war through superior tactics and technology, but you're winning the peace through something even more powerful: moral authority. Species join the Federation not because they fear you, but because they believe in what you represent." "What we all represent now," Minji corrected. "This isn't Earth's Federation. It belongs to everyone." 10 years after the war ended, Captain Minho Beak took his daughter to the museum on Mars. The colony had been rebuilt, larger and more beautiful than before. Where council ships had once brought death, now there were gardens and schools and families. "What's that?" his daughter asked, pointing to a memorial showing the original colony before its destruction. "That's where you would have lived if the council hadn't destroyed it. 340,000 people died here because the council was afraid of what humanity might become." "What did we become?" Minho smiled. "Something they never expected. Not conquerors or tyrants. Just people who refuse to accept that might makes right. We proved that a single species, even one as young as ours, could change the galaxy if they were willing to fight for something bigger than themselves." His daughter looked at the memorial, then at the thriving colony around them. "I'm glad we fought. So am I." Across the galaxy, in the ruins of what had once been the Council's greatest fortress, a group of archaeologists from 8 different species was cataloging the remains. They found data archives containing the full history of the Council's crimes. Every genocide, every atrocity, every act of cruelty was documented and preserved. Why did they keep such detailed records? One of the archaeologists asked. "Because they were proud," answered a human researcher. "They thought history would remember them as wise rulers who maintained order. Instead, they'll be remembered as tyrants who fell because they forgot the most important lesson: that no being, no species, no empire has the right to enslave another." The archives were preserved and made available to anyone who wanted to study them. Let every generation remember what happened when power was concentrated in the hands of the few. Let them remember how the galaxy was freed, and let them remember that it was humanity, the species judged too primitive and violent to join galactic civilization. That taught the galaxy what freedom really meant. The end.